हेलो व्यूअर्स, उम्मीद है कि आपका दिन अच्छा गुजर रहा होगा। आज हमारे साथ डॉक्टर मोनिका मेहता मौजूद हैं। प्रोफेसर मोनिका जो हैं यहाँ अमेरिका की एक न्यूयॉर्क स्टेट में बिंगहैम्पटन यूनिवर्सिटी में इंग्लिश की प्रोफेसर हैं, लेकिन उनकी बहुत सारी तहकीक और स्कॉलरशिप जो है वो बॉलीवुड से मुतल्लिका इंडियन सिनेमा और बहुत सारे मौज़ूआत के ऊपर वो लिखती भी हैं, रिसर्च भी करती हैं। तो बहुत शुक्रिया कि उन्होंने हमें नया दौर मीडिया के लिए टाइम दिया है। और अब मेरी ये ख्वाहिश है कि उनके साथ ज़रा अच्छी जो है जानदार किस्म की सीरियस गुफ्तगू की जाए ऑन द कंटेम्प्रेरी सिनेमा। जो हम फिल्म रिव्यूज तो पढ़ते हैं लेकिन बहुत सारी हम डिटेल में नहीं जाते। तो एक नई जो फिल्म है गंगूबाई, जो कि एक ट्रू स्टोरी के ऊपर उसकी जो कहानी मबनी है, उसके बारे में आज हम बात करेंगे। गंगूबाई काठियावाड़ी जो है ये 2022 में रिलीज हुई, अब नेटफ्लिक्स पर भी आ चुकी है, सिनेमाज में भी लोग देख चुके हैं, इंटरनेशनल अवार्ड्स के लिए भी इसको नॉमिनेट किया गया है और आलिया भट्ट इसमें जबरदस्त किस्म की अदाकारी कर रही हैं। और ये जो है फिल्म, इसका क्या मतलब है, इसका क्या मकसद है, व्हाट डज इट डिनोट फॉर कंटेम्प्रेरी अबाउट कंटेम्प्रेरी इंडिया, अबाउट द कैरेक्टर्स, ये सब हम जानेंगे डॉक्टर मोनिका मेहता से। थैंक यू मोनिका फॉर बीइंग विद अस। सबसे पहले तो मैं ये आपसे पूछना चाहूंगा कि व्हाट डू यू थिंक अबाउट द फैक्ट कि जो उस वक्त का इंडिया है, जो उस वक्त का टाइम वो शो कर रहे हैं, उसके बारे में आपका क्या ख्याल है कि इज इट शोइंग ए रियलिस्टिक पोर्ट्रेयल ऑफ द टाइम्स? ये मिड 20th सेंचुरी है और उसमें क्या हो रहा है, तो ये मैं चाहूंगा कि जरा हम इसके ऊपर बात करें जी।
Right. Thank you, Raza. I think that's an excellent question. In terms of the times, I think what's very interesting in this film is कि हमें ना फिल्म के posters वक्त बताते हैं. So there's the shot of जो मुगले आजम का पोस्टर है या और कोई posters हैं, तो उसमें जो हमें वक्त के बारे में फिल्म के posters से पता चलता है. And I think that there's an interesting then situating of these sex workers in relation to कि भाई सिनेमा में क्या हो रहा है, right, at that time. And of course we also know that it's the 1950s क्योंकि उसको जो आलिया जो कैरेक्टर गंगूबाई का प्ले कर रही है उसको देवानंद से बहुत मोहब्बत है. So that's also a way of like situating. So it's interesting that the film is going to situate us and tell us कि भाई वक्त क्या है by using cinema as its कि भाई ये जतलाने के लिए. And I think in terms of it, the choice again to then film the 1950s and 60s, which is at least in terms of the Nehruvian period, कि अच्छा अब हम इंडिया प्रोग्रेस कर रहा है, डेवलपमेंट हो रही है हमारी, हम आगे बढ़ रहे हैं, right? So there's that narrative of Nehruvian socialism that is potentially driving at least the way in which national historiography is going to write this time for us. But Bhansali बताता है कि भाई अच्छा हम दिखाते हैं कि भाई sex workers or red light district में क्या हो रहा है. And the very fact that of course that the red light district continues to exist to move forward also in this time, and how it exists and how it moves forward is going to be another historiography that national historiography is not going to write. So in terms of that, Gangubai's story is going to be important because it's going to tell us another story of the nation, right? That here's another vantage point in terms of the story of the nation that Nehruvian socialism and nationalist historiography is not going to be able to tell us. So I think that's an excellent way of thinking about the film.
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल। और दूसरी जो आपने बात कही कि ये पोस्ट कॉलोनियल इंडिया भी है, ये देखिए ना कि ये बेसिकली अभी आजादी को
चंद
कितने
साल
साल।
हुए हैं। हाँ हाँ
हाँ,
हाँ
तो
हाँ
ये एक नई नई स्टेट बन रही है, इट्स अ न्यू कंट्री बीइंग शेप्ड, अ न्यू
हाँ
नेशनलिज्म।
हाँ
तो
हाँ,
वो भी आई थिंक कैप्चर करती है ये जो
राइट
फिल्म,
राइट राइट
वो
राइट।
एंजाइटी जो होती है, यू नो।
Exactly. And I think it's interesting because for me, like in terms of showing that particular uh, history and narrative of India, it takes me back to Guru Dutt's Pyasa. तो वो जो गाना है स्पेशली प्यासा में, जिन्हें नाज है हिंद पे, वो
हाँ बिल्कुल,
and which is a song that the film is going to quote at the end.
राइट।
उसे मिलती है. So I think that there's a way of launching a similar kind, a parallel critique
Yes,
of that time.
yes, exactly. So now coming to, of course, Alia Bhatt is, I mean, I have to say, I mean, I know who Alia Bhatt is. I've seen her before, but she really surprised me. And I mean, I was blown away by her performance. I think it was like a performance of a lifetime for, for a relatively young, actor. But जो persona है गंगूबाई का, और उसके बारे में आप क्या कहेंगी, क्योंकि उसको बहुत सारी उसके ऊपर तारीफ भी हो रही है, क्रिटिक्स भी हो रही हैं कि देयर इज दिस होल आइडिया ऑफ women's empowerment, but empowerment within that particular four corners of the red light district, so and then turning into a mafia queen and all of that. So how do you see that in that film? I mean, what does it say?
Right. I think, I mean, like you, I was also just blown away by Alia. I was also just mesmerized. मैं तो अपनी नजर नहीं हटती थी.
Yes.
और मुझे नहीं लगता था कि वो ये कर पाएगी. In fact, when I saw the trailer, I thought, no, like this is really not going to work. So like you, I was amazed. And I think in terms of the character of Gangubai, for me at least, it's a character that I see it in relation to a representational history of both politics and cinema.
Right.
So that there's a lot of citations that are there that Bhansali is constantly invoking, both through the posters, जैसे मुगले आजम का, तो हमें of course मधुबाला और अनारकली याद आती है, right? So the courtesan figure is being invoked there. फिर वो जो सफेद साड़ी पहनी रहती है और जो घुंघराले बाल हैं, that is our मीना कुमारी पाकीज़ा का जो gesture है. और so there's a way, and then of course as you know, the white sari has been so and white particularly has been so important. Of course, it gestures to widowhood, etc. But it also has been very important to politics in India, right? Politicians सफेद पहनते हैं.
Correct.
और इंदिरा गांधी भी सफेद पहनती थी.
बिल्कुल.
सफेद साड़ी पहनती थी. सोनिया गांधी अक्सर हमें सफेद साड़ी में नजर आती हैं. So there's a way in which there are all of these citations. To me, at least when I see this figure, I feel like, but कितनी layered representational history यहाँ पर ना quote हो रही है. और मेरी एक कॉलीग है अनुपमा कापसे, और उसने ना वाइट साड़ी के ऊपर एक्चुअली लिखा हुआ एक आर्टिकल लिखा हुआ है. अगर कोई पढ़ना चाहे उसको, तो वो बहुत ही अच्छा आर्टिकल है. But I think in terms of this, and in terms of, I think, issues of empowerment, for me, I think there's a way in which, because we are in this particular context of the brothel, we have to then think about, okay, what does resistance or empowerment look like, right?
Right.
Which is going to be answered very differently when we turn to like an upper middle class woman or a middle class woman. But what does empowerment look like for a woman lawyer based in Bombay versus Gangubai? These are different kinds of questions, right? Because they're coming from different contexts. तो मुझे लगता है if we think about it in that context and in terms of the representational history, she's really like he's crafting really an amazing figure. He initially is shooting her. पहले हम उसके पैर देखते हैं जो गाड़ी के ऊपर होते हैं. It's like a, you know, जैसे एक हीरो की एंट्री मिलती है उसको. Or the way in which she holds herself, the way in which she moves her body. It's very much like a hero strutting, swaggering, वो सब नजर आता है. And then the fact that she's fighting for these women's rights, right? And in the process,
yes.
And she's also in the process questioning this line between legitimate and illegitimate.
Yeah, she's constantly questioning that, and actually challenging that. But the sari jo uski wo hai, you know, at different junctures of the film, and that's what I noticed very clearly. There was I mean, I don't know in real. I haven't read the book. You know, the book that that they cite. You know, it's a famous journalist from Bombay. So, but anyway, I mean, what I would like to also you to speak a bit about, I mean, you know, and correct me if I'm wrong. I also felt that, you know, this whole personification of a courtesan or a prostitute or a sex worker, if we put it more precisely, you know, usually in Bollywood, I mean, I wouldn't say all the time, but mostly, at least the best known films like Pakiza, Umrao Jan, or Zora Begum from Muqaddar Ka Sikandar Rekha, you know, they all have been Muslim courtesans. And this time there's a Marathi mainstream, you know, a Hindu. I mean, I don't want to bring in communal side, but you know, one cannot, once you're in South Asia, you can't skip this question. Right.
No, I think that's an excellent question, and I think that there's a way. Certainly, the figure of the courtesan is often, not all the time, but often Muslim, and she is certainly framed by an Islamic culture, and I think and I think that the reverse, as Amir Mufti says, is also the case. You know, he points out कि भाई जो courtesan होती है वो हमेशा Muslim होती है, और जो mother होती है वो अक्सर Hindu होती है.
Hindu, you know? Yes.
And what does this mean in terms of how we then think about the relationship, the Hindus versus Muslims' relationship to the nation. So there's a way in which then necessarily that relationship becomes one that's on the border, one that is potentially also illegitimate, right?
Yes.
And I think there's a way in which certainly this film challenges that in terms of who the sex workers were per se, and opens that up. But it also, I think, opens up, and this links to the earlier question you asked about women empowerment. कि भाई जो the courtesan as a figure seemed to have just basically more like 3 or 4 choices. एक तो, of course, वो मर सकती थी. Right?
Yes.
The other was like Umrao Jan, wo akeli pad jati hai.
Yeah.
Right? And then the third was that if the gods and everything aligned, फिर उसकी शादी हो सकती है. है ना? So those were like the 3 choices that were possible. And this film is going to rewrite that script, right? That there are also other possibilities in terms of agency, of the kind of agency that she has and what she's able to do. And so I think to return to, I think, the question of the question of religion, there's something interesting about then expanding the space of women in India are, and what the representational history is going to be that
Yes.
will write for women, right? So if for the Hindu woman, representation has been the mother, so
Yes.
is rewriting that, saying,
Yeah.
"Hey,
Yes, Mother India. It's an alternative. It's a very interesting point you have noted that the film does open up many possibilities, and if I may add, a lot of these earlier courtesan characters, ये middle class morality से भी तो linked थे ना. The frame was the so-called values that, I mean, which still unfortunately prevail, or are the standard ethics menu in Pakistan, India, Bangladesh. But this film kind of opens it up, in a way, challenges it. I mean, I think that's a really, really important insight. And what do you think of Sanjay Leela Bhansali's, direction, the kind of otherworldly, sense he creates? I know there is a lot of grit and there's a lot of reality shock as well, but overall it is a cinematic kind of a parallel universe that he creates.
Right. No, I thought that the ways in which, he does this beautiful job of marrying realism with melodrama. So I think that there's a way in which, for me, especially since the biopic, at least in Hindi cinema, is such a huge thing right now, though biopics bana rahe hain. And there are certain features of the biopic, right? Ki bhai, acha, you need to quote unquote look like that person, and us par kafi kaam kiya jata hai. And to some extent, Bhansali, I feel, does away with that. But there are other things that have been diction hona chahiye. So I think that, so there's certain parts of the biopic and shooting like a realist film that he keeps, and others he lets go of. But I think what he does is that there's a way of shooting Alia, as I said, the hero look, वो जो light हमेशा उसके ऊपर रहती है, वो even though other things might be dark, she's always really well lit. The ways in which the music comes in to have us feel the pathos, but also remind us, right, of the 1950s. The entire more like so much of the music for that film is 1950s, early 1960s music that the entire thing is being packaged in. And it's supposed to, I think it's supposed to invoke pathos. For us, it's also supposed to form a relationship with this character. जिसके लिए, we sympathize with her, we feel for her, we agree with her, we say कि हाँ भाई हम तेरी fight में शामिल हैं, जो तू कर रही है वो बिल्कुल सही है, right? So to be able to, I think the melodrama, the song, the dance, the way in which he's shooting the film, the way in which lighting is being done, it's all doing that labor for us, where although this is a biopic, we're getting a Mother India treatment.
Yes.
We're getting like a, she's that larger than life, and it's kind of magnificent, right? Yeah. To have a Gangubai get a Mother India treatment.
It is. And may I also add that it kind of, that her meeting when she goes to Delhi to meet Prime Minister Nehru, that's also a very, I thought it was a very well done scene. Of course, it kind of glorifies Nehru a bit,
Right.
but in these times when Nehru is being vilified in mainstream press and public, domain, and there's a new history being written. So I thought that was also an interesting part, that interaction where Nehru also appears to be this sensitive guy, of course, stopped short of radical reform.
Right.
So what did you think of that scene?
Right. I mean, I think I like you. I think there's a way in which, because of what is currently happening in India, some of us certainly think that acha wo zamana bhi behtar tha, regardless of its problems. So I think that there's a certain, yes, there is the film is making Nehru look good in that sense, but I think at the same time, but as you said, he clearly needs to be pushed, and it's also a political lesson for us, right? कि भाई जो politicians हैं वो उतने तक ही करते हैं जितने तक वो चाहते हैं, unless they're pushed, right?
Correct.
And she pushes him कि भी तुम करो, तुम हमें हमारे हक दो. And it's really, really beautiful the way in which, again, film is cited for us. Pyasa, as Jine Naaz Hai Hind Par, is cited for us, which again is a song that, unlike the courtesan genre, it's going to tell us there are many different kinds of women, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And if you if you're, अगर तुम्हें अपने देश पर इतना नाज है तो तुम्हें कुछ करना चाहिए इनके लिए.
Yeah, basically that's the clear message.
Right.
Absolutely. So you would think, I think this is really interesting, the framing and these different nuances that he explores. And in a way, I must say, Sanjay Leela Bhansali, I'm a fan of his, but even I think he has kind of outdone himself in so many ways.
Right. No, I definitely think, I feel like I've liked his films, but they haven't grabbed my attention in the way in which this one did. So I thought that he was doing such a fantastic job of both giving us this character, but also doing what he does best, which is through the mise-en-scène, right? अगर आप एक भंसाली picture देखते हो, you have to pay attention to the costumes. You have to pay attention to the makeup. You have to pay attention to the sets, right?
Yes.
Because they're loaded. They're loaded. मतलब वो सिर्फ background नहीं है कि भाई बड़ा सोना लग रहा है, या हाँ जी ये realism काम कर रहा है. This is exactly what हमारा पश्चिम बिहार लगता है, या हमारा ये लगता था. It's not doing that work. They're loaded. It's loaded with meaning, and I think that this film for me is really rich. And I in terms of the citations of Bombay cinema that it does, but also just to put the theater and the brothel next to each other. As these two spaces, right?
Right.
And what happens when we think about these places together, and there's so many generative things to be thinking about. कि पहले तो अच्छा जो सिनेमा की जो history होती है is a history of disrepute, right? कि लोग पहले जाते नहीं थे और औरतों को वहां पर काम नहीं करना था. अगर तुम काम करते थे तो then necessarily you were like a sex worker. Right?
Yeah.
So there's that history. There's also that beautiful scene in the film जब वो picture देखने जा रही हैं और वो बंदा आ जाता है उनको रोकने के लिए.
Correct.
वो उसको झाप मारती है, भी हम picture देखने जा रहे हैं. मतलब कि where we also have our time of relaxation, of our enjoyment.
Yes,
Let
yes,
it be,
bilkul,
right?
bilkul. Yeah. And you know, that was a great scene actually, if I remember. You know, in the way also it's handled, and it's charming. You know, the old cinema
Right,
culture, which
right,
is which we don't know much about
right,
now. You know,
right,
it's all
right,
multiplexes or
right, right.
Netflix.
Exactly.
For
And then and the other stuff that he handles so well is the songs are really beautiful, and that Kavali, uh, the opening of that Kavali reminded me of a song, I think a song from Mughal-e-Azam, and the ways in which it's shot, वो ना बिल्कुल जैसे सिनेमा की तरह फ्रेम है, और लोग बैठे भी ऐसे हुए हैं, जो the rows that are cinematic. Similarly, the ways in which वो अपने जो political opponent को हराती है by doing a film screening.
Yes,
Right,
exactly.
right. So that उसका जो affair चलता है वो जो दर्जी होता है उसके साथ.
Yes.
That, you know, where she's the one who's initiating the moves, and I mean it's in terms of just of sexual agency there. I think that is also important. The other thing, and I mean, इसके बारे में मुझे थोड़ा सा सोचना है, but sometimes I do wonder, क्योंकि वो उसकी जो शादी, and again it's interesting that जब वो उसकी शादी करवाती है, religion is not an issue.
Correct.
है ना, वहाँ पर वो लड़की के साथ. And what is an issue is कि भाई, you know, अगर वो तबायफ है या नहीं.
Correct. Exactly.
Right. And I think sometimes I do wonder whether like this is the limit of a certain kind of realism. कि पाकीज़ा में उसकी शादी हो सकती.
Yes.
हो सकती है ना?
हो सकती है, बिल्कुल.
है ना? लेकिन जब तुम रियलिज्म करते हो तो शादी हो नहीं सकती है.
हाँ, exactly.
I'm not saying कि वो चाहती है, but you know, so that there's all sorts of issues about whether you want them or whether they should, etc. But it's interesting in terms of what one frame makes possible and the other, the kinds of possibilities that are not there then.
Right. Absolutely. No, this is really fascinating. And, you know, I think that I hope that those who have not seen this film should listen to Dr. Mehta first, or even if you've seen it, do hear and watch this video, because, you know, films are a great way to understand our world and also to engage with the world. So, Dr. Monika Mehta, thank you so much for joining me. And next week, we are going to talk about our other favorite films and themes from Bollywood, and we shall continue this series. Goodbye.
Bye. Thank you.